kind of a gloomy day outside. Almost just like owning a Saab 9.3. Actually, if I'm going to be 100% honest, Saabs are really awesome cars, but they just have their quirks and relatively sometimes major but yet expensive repairs to do. But beside the point. In this video I go into depth of the 5 common problems that you may encounter with the Saab 9.3 2003 to 2011. That way, whenever you're looking at purchasing one, you know what to avoid, or it may give you more leverage in negotiating to get a better price because you already know what the problem is and you may be DIY handy and be able to repair it yourself. So stay tuned on the 5 common problems I found with the Saab 9.3. So starting off the list at number 5 is going to be the gas gauge. So you may have a gas gauge that works intermittently. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not, or it may just not work at all. On my other 9.3, my 2008, this one being a 2007, it doesn't work whenever it's totally full. Something with the contact of the sending unit doesn't work. It loses contact, and then therefore it doesn't read properly. Now, on the older GM models, or I should say on older GM vehicles, not specifically the Saabs, but the stepper motors, little motors behind these gauges are notorious for going out. But that's not the case. It's the actual fuel tank sender within the fuel pump. So on other vehicles, you may have an access panel if you remove the seats. This one you do not. You have to jack the car up, lower the gas tank, pull the fuel pump out. But with that being said, you don't have to replace the entire fuel pump. You can replace just the fuel pump ender. But that's still going to cost you a good chunk of change if you can't do it yourself. So if you do it yourself, the sender itself costs 50 to 60 bucks. But if you're paying somebody out, farming out the labor, average shop rate, I want to say like $70 to $90 an hour, depending on where you go, depending on what part of the country you're at. But it can be a very costly repair. Fortunately, you don't have to go to a Saab-specific dealer to do it, because dropping a gas tank is pretty much the same procedure regardless of vehicle. But it's something that you want to be concerned with, or you want to pay attention if you're going to be buying a vehicle, or if that's what your vehicle is doing. It's not so much a difficult repair, but it's costly if you don't have the tools or know how to do it. So that's number 5. On to 4. So number 4 on the list is the CIM, the Central Integrated Module. Kind of a mouthful. But in a nutshell, Saab decided to be different, and instead of installing the ignition right here or on the column right here, they decided to place it right by the shifter. Now, if you have an automatic, it's the exact same. Obviously, it's a little bit different here, but the CIM is located in the exact same spot. So I don't know if Saab did that because of safety reasons, for the fact that if you get in an accident, the ignition comes back, striking your knee. I don't know for a fact, but basically, it's placed in the center, and you get this kind of ginormous looking key fob. But anyways, what goes wrong with that is, 1, you lose your keys. If you don't have the keys, then you have to get new keys to run the vehicle, and unfortunately that means replacing the CIM. Also, you have the cup holder right here. You place your beverage here, say a nice hot coffee in the morning. This cup holder is a little awkward, it's a little big, so your drink kind of sloshes around and it splashes or it tips over and it douses your CIM with the liquid. Or over time it just goes bad because you get lint on this stuff in your pocket, you ram it in here, you know, a lot of motions back and forth, so it easily can go out. One of the telltale signs is the fact that, 1, your vehicle has starting issues, and 2, that you're having issues with like the locking mechanism, because it has that anti-theft, so whenever you take the key out and stuff, it's supposed to lock it. Well, if you're having issues with it not unlocking, or vice versa, locking, or even starting issues, then you very well may have an issue with your CIM. So especially if you just recently spilled something on it. I believe the main way to check is with the Tech 2. Unfortunately, that means it's a very expensive repair. Now, what I read online is that you have to replace the clock spring or something up here as well, the part that like locks the steering wheel for security reasons. I don't know if that's the case for all of them, but I know at least the CIM on esaabparts.com. Last time I checked was like $385. So if you do have this issue, what I recommend is try to find a used unit online, especially with 2 keys, because if you don't have both keys and you lose one, then you're back to square one. You got to replace this CIM. And then also try to find somebody local that has a Tech 2 that can marry it together, because you can save a heck of a lot of money with that repair. So number 3 on the list is going to be near impossible to show you without showing a photo, but basically it's the evaporator core. One of the most common things AC related with this vehicle, if you're constantly having to refill it with R134A freon, is the fact that the evap core within the dash is probably leaking. Yes, there could be a bunch of other problems with the AC system, but more than likely it's the evap core buried way in there. So one of the telltale signs is with the AC on, set both sides, because it is dual climate control, set both sides to the same temperature, and then in theory, all should be the exact same temperature. If the driver's side is colder, then these 3 vents, say it's cold here, gets warmer, warmer, and warmest, then more than likely you're low on freon, and the cause is probably from a leaking evap core. So unfortunately, I can't show you the photo because it's so buried here, but I'll try to show a photo now. And what happens is in the dash, by the firewall, kind of by where the cabin air filter is located way up here, kind of by where the wiper blade is, but buried down in there, it leaks. There's a grommet and water leaks in there, goes inside, and then there's the box that holds the evap core, and then it kind of sits in some water and then rusts that evap core out. But the definitive way to diagnose this is to, even though I am a big DIY person, take it to a shop and have them put the dye inside the freon, let it sit or let it run for a couple days, drive the vehicle around, go back, and have them get that UV light and figure out where it's leaking. But more than likely, it's going to be the evaporator core within here. And it's a very expensive and costly repair to do. There's videos out online that show how to replace it, which definitely simplifies it, but nonetheless, it's very expensive. You're looking at hundreds of dollars just for the core itself, and then if you need anything else. So like an expansion valve, and then of course you probably want to get new PAG oil and freon, and it kind of snowballs from there. But that is one of the most common AC problems for a Saab 9.3. Number two for my Americano friends is going to relate to the intake valves. Ooh, spooky. So the intake valves are notorious for wearing out on the 2007 to 2009 Saab 9.3s with the 2.0 turbo engine. Doesn't matter if you have an automatic or a manual transmission, but it's specifically 07 to 09. Now, what Saab ended up doing was, yes, the 2.0 has been around for many, many years, but they changed the style on the head, I want to say, and the valve seats them were of a softer material than the intake valves themselves. So then, therefore, the normal wear and tear was a little more excessive because of the harder and softer metals. So, telltale signs of this issue, if you have it or you're looking at one of these cars within 2007 to 2009, does the vehicle have a hard start, especially during a cold start? So if it's kind of chilly out, does the vehicle sit there and crank and crank and crank before it starts? Well, that's because it's trying to build up compression. So if you're looking to buy one of these within that year range, one, listen to the sound. Does it sound like chaos is ensuing in the engine? Or does it seem like it has a miss? And if you can, pull off the coil, pull out the spark plugs, and put a compression tester on it. I don't know offhand what the ratings should be. I know normally an engine is somewhere between like 150 and 180. So I don't know if that's the same thing. I'll have to look up and post in the description if that's the case for these. But basically you're looking for everything across the board. So if this one is 180, you want this one to be very close to 180, and so on and so forth. So if you have 180, 180, 100, 180, then you know there's an issue with that. And granted, there could be a million other issues within inside the engine, but if it's from 07 to 09, more than likely, it's going to be the intake valves. And the only remedy for that, tear down the engine, send that cylinder head off to a machine shop to get redone, new valve seats, new valves, so on and so forth. That means money, money, money. So it might be more beneficial to avoid these year cars or find service history if you're looking for one of these vehicles and you love it enough. Find the service history of it and make sure this problem has been addressed before. The number one issue on my list of problems for Saab 9.3s relates to the 2.8 liter turbo V6 engine, and that has to do specifically with the coils. So you can't unfortunately see the coils because there is this factory plastic panel over top of it, but those go bad and it causes misfire issues, non-starting issues, and all kinds of problems. The easiest way to diagnose this issue is if you have a check engine light, you go to the parts store and they tell you you have a cylinder 1 misfire, take that cylinder 1 coil and switch it with cylinder 3 or wherever else and clear the code and drive the vehicle for a while. If the code comes back and then is switched to a cylinder 3 misfire, then you know for a fact that the coil is the issue. So it's kind of a simplistic way of diagnosing it without throwing a bunch of money at it, but it is a costly repair, and it's something that's also, I would say, a maintenance interval if the vehicle has 100,000 miles or more. I've known these to go out around 50,000 miles, or actually right around every 50,000 miles, and it's not uncommon to get a Saab 2.8 when you're looking at purchasing one that has new coils already, because more than likely the previous owner has replaced them because of this issue. So if you have one that goes bad, I recommend just replacing all of them. So yes, unfortunately that does mean a lot of more money, but it's a better peace of mind knowing that they're all replaced. And then I would keep the extras as a spare, and they're really not hard to change at all. But that concludes the list of the top 5 issues with Saab 9.3s. I appreciate you watching, and maybe in the future I'll have a top 5 cosmetic issues that are common with Saab 9.3s. Be sure to like, subscribe, keep being awesome. Thanks for watching.